Okay, so there's a lot of interesting things that I came across, and just for the sake of making like a shorter video, well, I hope this is a shorter video. So now let's go. Interesting thing number 1. So I came across this website organization, the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. They have a lot of information about the risk of using amalgam fillings and the exposure of mercury during removal if it is not following the special protocol. They have over 800 dentists who offer the smart procedure around the world. Even Saskatchewan has 2 or 3 dentists who follow the procedure. And in Mexico, you can find these dentists in Tijuana and Cancun. I'm planting seeds for the future to have a smart dentist, or like a dentist using the smart protocol, in Puerto Escondido. Number 2, the dentist I'm going to use uses a smart protocol. The SMART protocol stands for Safe Mercury Amalgam Removal Technique. And I'm not going to go into that whole protocol right now with y'all because it is a little bit lengthy, but I will create another video just about what that is. It's very interesting and it makes a lot of sense, and I like things that make sense. I'm going to a dentist that's using the SMART protocol, therefore I do believe that it's going to be the least amount of mercury vapors exposure for the patient and the staff. To be honest, I am taking binders and going to be doing a mental detox after the procedure. So I feel like with this one-time exposure for me, I would be fine. But I do not want to be playing the role of exposing an innocent dentist to mercury vapors. I am not calling anybody out. If you have had your fillings out without doing the protocol, I mean, you never knew, and as well as it is also their choice, and they should be educated in this subject. But it's just how I personally feel about things. I wouldn't be able to do it now that I knew the risks. I have made a whole another video about the protocol and the procedures that it follows. So if you're interested in that, just check the description below because I'll have a link to that. Number 3, mercury is a toxin. And even on the World Health Organization website, it says that the people are most exposed to mercury through our amalgam fillings. Number 4, mercury can cross the barrier, the placental barrier, and it can impair kidney function at a subclinical levels of exposure. Therefore, it is advisable to avoid procedures involving amalgam in pregnant women or individuals with kidney disease, as there are studies that have found babies and their umbilical cords with heavy metals and mercury in them. There are also links to certain babies having negative effects immediately after childhood vaccines, and some children have improved their neurological health after doing heavy metal detoxes, which makes me think that there is perhaps a connection between metals and the amount of metals in certain children and their neurological behaviors. I also believe that I was one of these children, as I suffer from neurological and physical issues which suppress my ability to communicate properly. Another interesting thing on the WHO website is that they don't recommend that women who are wanting to get pregnant or breastfeeding get amalgam fillings or have them removed, because again, the mercury can be ingested by the mother and pass on to the baby. I found this interesting that on the EPA, or the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency website, they have guidelines on, you have like a mercury thermometer and it breaks. It's roughly about 2 tablespoons of mercury in that. If it's spilled, that it's important to call the National Resource Center, and if any amount is spilled and children are around, they must be evacuated from the area. But it is deemed safe for children over the age of 6 to get amalgam fillings, and each filling is maybe the one dentist that I was listening to on her podcast, she said that it's equivalent to about a tablespoon or a teaspoon of mercury. So that's just an interesting, one of those interesting things where it's a big deal sometimes and it's not a big deal other times, and it's dangerous to put into your mouth and it's dangerous to take out of your mouth, but it's not dangerous when it's in your mouth, even though it gives off vapors on a daily basis. There was just a lot of different it's like you can call it like misinformation, things that just don't quite make sense when thinking about amalgam fillings. Number 5, mercury vapors come off the fillings when, well, pretty much doing anything that you do with your mouth. Drinking, eating, grinding, chewing. So there's a cool video by a Connecticut dentist, Dr. Yuji May, and he made a video in 2016 with a 25-year-old tooth that had mercury fillings in it. He put it in front of a fluorescent screen, and the mercury vapors absorb the light, and then you can see the vapors. So he did a few different experiments of how much vapors come off the fillings while doing certain things, like putting cold water over it, hot water, rubbing it with an eraser, scraping it with a knife, and you can clearly see the vapors each time. These are not small amounts of mercury. Now, if you can see it, it's 1,000 times higher than the Environmental Protection Agency will allow for mercury to be in the air that we breathe. And this is in our mouth. So he says that with any type of stimulation, mercury vapors come out. And it doesn't just come out for that second, it continues for an hour and a half at minimum. An hour and a half at minimum. So if you eat and chew and do a lot of things in your mouth, you're constantly having mercury vapors in your mouth. This is just like, even when you're sleeping, if you're grinding your teeth. So in the demonstration of scraping the fillings, there was a lot of vapor. And I personally don't want to be responsible for my dentist and their staff breathing that in. So just trying to be conscious, this is why I'm going to that dentist that will be following this SMART protocol. Number 6, in 1985, there was a test to see how much mercury was coming off their fillings, and they graphed it out. And they also did an experiment. These scientists did an experiment, and they put fillings, amalgam fillings, into the mouth of sheep. Within 30 days, they found that there was mercury in all the sheep's organs. They found mercury in the jaw, the kidney, the liver, and stomach. And they measured that the sheep's kidney function decreased by 60%. Number 7, there is an ongoing, growing body of information that shows that amalgam fillings can be dangerous. There's not enough controlled studies done to know how much makes somebody sick, but the reason that there's no controlled studies done on something as important as our neurological health and a dangerous toxin that has been put into the mouths of millions of people doesn't really should surprise me, but obviously it is like part of society, and obviously a lot of people are making money off of this procedures, as well as there are even people making money off of people being sick. So I don't know if that is the reason that some of these studies are not being completed. But what we can trust is that there are people who have had health issues, that have done heavy metal detoxes, have taken their fillings out, and then they have felt better after. And I really believe that we can trust the people, and we can trust the science as much as the science will allow us to know it. But I think it's kind of known now that a lot of you have to trust where the money of the funding of the projects are going, and also sometimes there's a lot of great information that will just never get out there, especially not in time. 38 years ago, there was concerns about health issues related to amalgam fillings. So I'm 38 years old now, and I wish that I had came across this information earlier. To be honest, I don't even remember ever having a pain for a cavity. I just discovered that I had fillings, or I had cavities when I went in for the mandatory dental visits that we got checked up, and we got fluoride treatments, and we always had fillings. And now it is known that fluoride, especially ingested, it causes a neurological effect on children, and it affects the pineal gland. And the amount of fluoride, how much is too much, is also something that I don't know if there's actual studies on it. What if having this combination of mercury and fluoride in our mouth, giving off certain small amounts of mercury on a daily basis, as well as ingesting in fluoride on a daily basis in small amounts, is just enough just to keep people a little bit more docile, a little bit not able to tap into their higher powers. Number 8. In 2008, Scandinavian countries banned amalgam fillings due to the negative environmental and health-related problems. In 1994, Sweden further proposed to cease using amalgam entirely by 1997. A final decision of the implementation of this ban is still pending. This information was taken from the Canada.ca website. And in Sweden, it also said that Sweden really wanted to stop using amalgam fillings as well because of the impact on the environment. Number 999. On a television talk show called Dr. Oz, you guys remember Dr. Oz? I watched a demonstration of a science experiment, of a controlled experiment where there was this fake set of teeth inside of a box coming in or out, and they had those special gloves that, if you're working on a bomb or you're working with different bacteria and stuff like that, you have these arms that go inside the box. And so inside this box, he was brushing the teeth, and then they had something that read the air quality and read how much mercury vapors were in the air. The vapors started to fill the air. I think it went from 0 to 61, and anything over 0 is toxic. So there was this undeniable demonstration on television showing that when you brush your teeth, that you're creating an environment for yourself. You're creating you have toxic mercury vapors in your mouth. I also watched another video on YouTube from the Natural Dentist Associates. And so these two dentists, they're talking about amalgam fillings, and they are both now in natural dentist practices, or holistic dentist practices, where they do not use amalgam fillings anymore. And the main reason is, first, a lot of times there's deep cavities that are found underneath these amalgam fillings, as well as the other part is that the toxicity of the mercury. So the one dentist, she got tested for mercury after she had her child, and she was found to be have mercury toxicity. She had a very high level of mercury in her system, and that was just from placing and removing these amalgam fillings. And unfortunately, her child also had a lot of health issues, and when they tested the child also had very high levels of mercury. So just by working as a dentist while being pregnant, her child was born with high levels of mercury, and therefore had health problems. 11. Earliest known use of amalgam fillings was in 1505. So this has been around for a while now. It was introduced to the Western world in 1833 and been a controversy ever since. Actually, in 1844, 50% of all dental restoration of upstate New York was using amalgam fillings, but it declared it malpractice because it was known that it was toxic. The dental amalgam war began. This dispute ended in 1856 when the association changed to another association. I don't know how they decided that something unsafe like amalgam was then okay to begin using again, but this is the world that we live in. So I have been trying to understand how this is even possible, and as far as I can tell from a spiritual standpoint is that the food, products, vaccines, and medicines, and even clothing and furniture that has toxins in it that can harm us, it's allowed to happen in this world, in this manifestation, because we also are choosing if we're going to be using those things. And this thought process is backed up by reading about the amalgam fillings on the Government of Canada website when talking about the thought process of committees. So quote unquote, some patients may have concerns that they have adverse systematic effects due to amalgam fillings. Although removal of existing amalgam fillings may, in some individuals, have positive effects, At this time, substantial experimental evidence does not exist to confirm these positive effects. Individuals considering such an action should thoroughly discuss the issue with their physician and dentist. So, from my interpretation of that is like putting the power and everything back into the hands of the individual, that it's their choice whether they're doing it or not. They need to talk to their physician and dentist about it. Also on this page, quote unquote, the medical and dental practitioners should be alert to the fact that some individuals have sensitivities to amalgam and to the needs of these individuals. All individuals have the right to participate in the selection of the materials that will be placed in their mouth. So this is the truth. It was known for years and years, and many studies done, that mercury is toxic, that one is running the risk of having negative neurological effects as well as physical effects, but it is the patient's choice if they want it. I don't know if this is true now. In the one video I watched, it talked about how insurance companies would insure for amalgam fillings, but not some of the more expensive ones. So if that's true, if it's still true, like people, especially like government employees and different people who have benefits, are going to be choosing the ones that are covered under their insurance. That's some of the perks of being in some of these jobs, and some of these, a lot of like the jobs that are even like a little bit more unsafe or have exposure to metals and other toxins and stuff, like when they have these perks from the government, or it really means a lot to people. And people, they'll go to the doctors and the dentists and the massage therapists and everything that is covered under their package. Unfortunately, these, as we now know, that is not necessarily the most healthiest option for the people, but it's what's covered. I feel important is that when the government is recommending something to the majority of people trust their government. They feel like the government is an elected representation of themselves, and that they are educated, and that they are scientific based, and that they have like the most technology and the science behind health and well-being, and so they follow the recommendations from the government. To really heal certain things, we need to understand that we are a holistic being, that we're not just a physical being, but we're actually a physical and emotional and spiritual beings. And when we get really, really into deep healing, that's when we actually recognize that. And taking just pills to mask a symptom is not how we're going to heal, and without the knowledge of how to do detoxes and encouragement of detoxes, people aren't going to heal. So that is what I feel is truth. I think it's backed up by a lot of evidence of how society is right now, how many people are sick, and then you see the people who aren't sick, and you find out what they're doing, and you see that they're taking a more holistic approach to their lifestyles. The majority of them are. Okay. I feel that there's a lot of people that are blindly following the guidelines of the government and professionals who are supposed to have the best interest of the people at hand, and they're failing them. And because people are really busy with their lives, with working 40 to 60 hours a week, with all the other aspects of life, with numbing themselves with alcohol and weed and food and movies, they don't have the time or the mental capacity to do research themselves. As well as even me, like I'm trying to do research here, and it's not the easiest to do research. And even when you do the research, it's not as easy. It's not just like a very clear, like, yes, this is true and this isn't true. They have it makes it very challenging for people to really know the truth about the exposure that they're having to certain metals, including mercury and amalgam. Health Canada report, Assessment of Mercury, Exposure and Risks from Dental Amalgam by Dr. Mark Richardson, is a useful research study, but currently available clinical data are not reliable enough to permit making a confident estimate of a tolerable daily intake for mercury from amalgam. This is what I'm talking about. There's like, even though there's research done, they can't say like, this is tolerable and this is not. So my personal conclusion for myself is that I'm definitely excited to get my fillings out. I would not recommend them to anyone who wants to reach enlightenment or wants to just not run the risk of having neurological holdbacks. Even if we don't have mercury poison, even if we don't have tremors, even if we don't have nerve damage, why take the risk of not having your channels and being as clear as they potentially can be? Why run that risk of having something that's going to be giving you off small amounts of mercury vapor every single day until the day that you die? My mind is blown. My mind is blown. So number 12, 1 ton of mercury has been drilled out of people's mouths and down the pipes of the dentist's office. And this was contaminating the water system in the United States. Now it's regulated that there needs to be a filter for the mercury in the USA because of the toxicity of mercury and its components. Many countries, including Canada, have introduced measures to reduce or eliminate mercury in many products and to control its emission into the environment. Hallelujah. Okay, so there you go, my friends. This is what I found so interesting over this last year of doing this research and why I chose to go to a smart dentist, because there isn't the research that actually says how we are affected from just the mercury vapors in the mouth. We know that higher amounts causes issues. We know that people that have gotten their mercury fillings out of their mouth that were sick, a lot of these people have less symptoms or reverse their symptoms completely. We know that sheep, when they have amalgam fillings in their mouth, that the mercury, it moves around their body. We know that a lot of studies are not completed that could protect people, and also maybe these studies aren't completed for reasons, you know, maybe that it's just too crazy that so many people have had one of the most dangerous substances in their mouth over all these years that they just don't really want to finish those studies and say that, hey, yeah, this should never have happened. But on the bright side, we now know, you're watching this video, so now you know. So if you have the fillings, don't stress out, you're fine. But yeah, just you maybe follow my next video. I'm going to be making a video about my trip to Cancun, where I'm going, about my experience. I'm hoping I'm going to have a lovely experience to share with y'all. And then maybe you want to get your fillings out, and it's a lot less expensive in Mexico than in some other countries for sure. And as well as, and if you already had your fillings out and you're having some of these symptoms, like maybe getting a test to see how your metal levels are in your body, and maybe doing, if you find that they're high, doing a metal detox. Or if you rather just do a metal detox without getting the other test before and putting all that money into the metal detox, I feel like with all the exposure of everything else that we're exposed to on a daily basis, that doing a metal detox is a definitely recommended thing for everybody to do at least a couple times a year. And I'm going to be doing one in a couple of weeks as soon as I get all the ingredients sent to me. And I'm also going to be getting a test of how much metals and how are the nutrients and everything in my body before I do that detox. So that way I'll have just something to gauge it on. To be honest, like, I have resistance to go get this, it's called an oligo scan, because I'm not really into technology and science as far as, like, I'm more into, like, being intuitive with my own body and watching my stools, watching the substance on my tongue called ama, seeing how my eyes are, seeing how my skin is, meditating, asking myself questions, getting answers for myself. Like, I have a lot of inner wisdom just by connecting to myself naturally. I don't feel like I need to go to get a test done. with that said, is I'm here to try to share my story with other people, and just talking about how I intuitively, well, it's not intuitive, like I've been studying Ayurveda for over 10 years now, which has taught me how to listen to my body. So not everybody is at that level yet, so I want to also just kind of have maybe some scientific backing about what I'm saying, so that I can encourage people with that information as well as my own truth. I feel like that's important, and so I'm going to like be paying like $400 for this test, I guess twice, so $800 or $900 to get this stuff done, just to kind of make document my story a little bit more for other people. If it was just for me, I wouldn't do it, because I already know, like that's why I'm doing it. I already asked myself if I need to do it, and I do. So I already know that I need to do the test, but everybody's different. And I do believe in science, and it's really amazing, and it's, but I also, I believe in science, but I don't always believe in what the general public believes is right and wrong, and healthy and unhealthy. And this is where I'm trying to help educate people to begin to think for themselves a little bit more, and begin to do research on subjects, and also be aware where they're doing the research, because suppression of information is legit. Especially, and it's coming out more and more that certain doctors and certain people, that even though they have true information and great findings, that if they're going against the narrative, sometimes you'll never find their information. I hope that you find this information, and I hope that you watch my other videos about the SMART protocol, what it is, as well as my trip to Cancun. And any doubts or questions or anything, just send me a message. Lots of love to you. Take care of yourself.